hey, everything is safer and information is there to provide the advice, the services and tools, and it's done in minutes. So then the rest of it becomes more of a psychology thing, right? Of helping people stay invested in asset classes that actually work and that are kind of founded to work over long periods of time.
Welcome to Knowing Me, Knowing You, the podcast for the future of wealth management. Thanks for being here. I'm Marla Sofer. Money is a tool. It empowers people. Let's dive into how technology is personalizing advice, strengthening connections, and creating lasting impact. If you're an advisor looking to differentiate, a fintech leader shaping the next wave, or a client ready to take control of your financial future, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi, and today we are thrilled to welcome Alex Potts, a visionary in financial services with a lifelong mission to help individuals and families reach their financial goals. Alex is well known across the wealth management industry and adored. He was the president and chairman of advisor services for Buckingham Strategic Partners. He served as the president and CEO of Loring Ward. He founded SA Funds and held leadership roles at LWI Financial and R&P Advisory Services. And today, he is the co-founder of MCAP Ventures, focused on helping good people lead meaningful companies, and he still sits on multiple very impactful boards. What sets Alex apart is his dedication to reshaping how financial advice is delivered, not just through platforms and technology, but by championing human-centric wealth strategies. From helping his mom balance her checkbook at age 13 to building future-forward platforms for advisors, Alex has spent his life exploring what it really means to build wealth with purpose. Alex, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast.
Oh, Marla, thank you. I definitely appreciate the kind words too. That's really nice. It's weird to hear that. Like as I've gotten older, right? I kind of grew up in the industry. Now here I am, 58, and like sound like one of the old guys now. I guess I am.
Nah. I don't know if you are actually technically in the industry, but you certainly have accomplished a tremendous amount in your 58 years in the industry. You've impacted loads of lives, advisors, I'm sure private equity companies, and certainly most of all clients who have been touched by the businesses that you built, you supported. I'm curious, as you think about where we are today, what is most exciting to you about the moment we're in right now, about the future of wealth management?
Oh, it's incredible. I think for any advisor listening to this and really any individual investor, you now have the opportunity to get great wealth advice and great wealth implementation at very low cost and maybe some of the best advice. And that used to be only kind of reserved for the ultra high net worth. Marla, you mentioned like in the intro about the balancing of the checkbook for my mom. My mom was a school teacher. She was an elementary school teacher raising my brother and me. And she was super hardworking. But I remember, I had this formative memory of being 16 years old, sitting in our living room, and a salesperson came in selling basically an annuity product for a 403B. And for any advisor that's out there, and hopefully for any individual, bristles when you hear that because you're selling a tax advantage, quote unquote, product in an already tax advantaged account. And of course, the fees were egregiously high. And at 16, what the lesson I was learning was like, hey, mom was serious about wanting to retire, but she didn't have access to, she couldn't just go online and say, hey, what's the best thing I can do with my 403B? Like anybody can do now. And now plug it into ChatGPT or any of the requisite search models and come up with incredible advice and very simply open an account and have it done inexpensive. So I think that's just the coolest thing. Like the democratizing great wealth advice is just makes me happy.
The access and the information. I love that. Do you think that your mom being a teacher had something to do with your choice of this industry? You kind of have spent your whole career in wealth management. We've had other guests on this podcast who see themselves as teachers. We've had guests who see themselves as therapists. But do you think that that teaching role kind of really plays a role in your hard work and everything you've done?
Absolutely. Absolutely. She was an amazing teacher in my mind. I mean, she was an incredible mom. And yeah, Yes. I think the idea, like if you really kind of get to the most basal part about teaching, what you're doing is you're sharing information that you know with people or to other people who may need that information someday to help themselves. And I'm totally a helper. And I know this about you. You're the same. Like it's deeply ingrained. And so when I first got in the industry, it was about solving a problem. It wasn't about teaching. Like it was, again, I was a 21-year-old kid, just turned 22. And it was all about, hey, this is like my first real job. Actually, not even thinking about that. It was like, hey, here's this problem we're trying to solve for 3 advisors. How do we make this business work? How do we get the technology to work? How do we upload these trades to this company, Charles Schwab, that had set up this little institutional business that was like just a tiny part of who they were at the time. And so I think later, as I was able to step out of the fray of just getting things done, that I really enjoyed speaking and helping people. And then the corpus of the business became all about that. It was liberating people candidly from crappy products and getting away from this, high commission, not in the client's best interest, to 100% being in the client's best interest. And if you ever wavered from that, the clients could fire you on that day, and vice versa. The advisor could fire the client. So you were working in a truly fiduciary environment. But it took a couple of years for that to really dawn on me. And so kind of going back to that teaching and helping, that is definitely where I get my energy. And I see that from her dad. My grandfather was the one he served on multiple boards and he was in politics, but in my mind, he was in politics the right way. Like he never gained from his political stance. He was a mayor of the city of Roseville here in California. And, it was all about serving people. And I can remember him getting phone calls and helping people. And he was an incredible communicator. So somewhere along that genetic line, something got passed on to me. And by the way, my brother has been teaching emergency medical services now for about 20 years. And he's a retired battalion chief for Santa Clara Fire. So I think that gene hit us both. And it's really about helping people and, sharing information so people can do better for themselves.
I love that. I love that you're marrying it's not only the act of teaching and conveying information, it's very, very rooted in the act of service. And what great models you had in your family and that you've kind of carried forward through the generations. Before we move on to the next question, tell a little bit about your story, because you kind of touched on it a little bit. You were 21, you said you started working at an advisory firm and solving problems. What kind of got you on your path to where you eventually, became president and CEO and chairman, and how did that trajectory go?
So it really kind of started with a baseline. Like, again, as a kid, so my mom was a single parent and raising my brother and me. And it was tough. Like it was tough sledding for her. So money was scarce in our household. Like everything, the idea of balancing her checkbook, that was a lesson for me. And I remember very specifically at that age of sitting at the end of the counter, and I actually wanted like a pair of shoes, Marla, like a certain pair of shoes. I always had the Converse Chuck Taylors that I would blow through in about 2 weeks, right? I'd use them as brakes on my bike. And I wanted to get these other ones. And my mom said, hey, they're not in the budget. And here's what a budget is. And you're going to learn this. And oh, by the way, like we're working, like we're throwing newspapers and collecting and doing all of that stuff. So my brother and I, through my mom, got this incredible work ethic, I think, or this ethic about like, hey, if we're not going to sit back and be victims in all of this. We're gonna work our way out of this. So fast forwarding a little bit, I went to Santa Clara University. I had grants from the state, had a Cal grant, had a Pell grant. And my mom and I both paid for the other third. And then after a while, I ended up paying for the third. I worked multiple jobs through school. I was like a commuter student, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody in the first few years of college. But I interned at this company, RWB, which was serving financial advisors. And my elementary school principal, who became this incredible force in my life, he basically took me under his wing. He became a financial planner after after he retired from being a principal. And so I got to see what he was doing. This is like 1987. So picture me with like a big head of hair and I was 20 years old in 19.
He was a planner at that time in 1987. He actually went straight into financial planning, which kind of wasn't all the rage. People were stockbrokers.
And planning was a euphemism for being
Yeah.
a commission-based financial, whatever, advisor or a registered rep. Right. So the idea that principal wanted to be a planner, like he really wanted to help people, but he was really making money selling, products to people. And at that time, the product choices were limited. So as I kind of kept going through, I would say intellectually, I'm not the brightest human being on the planet. I have an adaptive intelligence. So when you drop me somewhere, I can figure things out pretty quickly. And I love to read. I love to learn. And actually, there's a great quote that was passed on to me by my advisor at Santa Clara. When I was struggling, it was my first year of my sophomore year. I was working 3 jobs. I was dying, like trying to go to school full time and working literally 3 jobs. And there wasn't the time for me to do any of it well. And I remember Dr. Drummond saying, "Hey, Alex," he goes, "Do you like to learn?" And I go, "Yeah, I like to learn." And he goes, "If you can learn to love to learn, life's going to get a lot easier for you." And oh, by the way, quit 2 of the jobs. But that quote, "Learn to love to learn," resonated with me, well, obviously to this day, because I'm sharing it. So that process of learning and step by step, like I never aspired to be a CEO or chairman. I was 31 when I was president of our mutual funds, or president and CEO. And it wasn't something I sat there and aspired to and say, "Oh, this is what I want to do." It was all about solving problems and helping people and doing it the best way that I knew how. And maybe through all the years of bloody noses of dealing with bad leadership. And I had a lot of anti-models in leadership. And one of them, sadly, was my dad. It was not like a particularly great guy or in the early years. And I would say I developed a much better relationship in his sobriety and the like. But I learned a lot of really tough lessons of things that I wouldn't want to do to other people and to help. But I also did have some amazing role models as well. So getting to see a lot of that, but also being hungry to learn. Like I am a sponge. I read avidly to this day. I'm curious, but I still look at it and say the amount that I know is so little compared to everybody else. But you just kind of start to compound it and build it. And all in the end, it's to help people. And that's the ultimate role really of a CEO, is how do you help your team help your clients, and how do your clients help other people? And we would measure that. And I think that was something that was really important. And the money followed it if you had a good business model.
There was a lot in there. And I love that quote. You learn to love to learn. And clearly your early management, to run a fund at the age of 31, clearly your management saw that hunger for learning and curiosity in you, but you also have to execute, and you actually have to come through on better serving your clients. And I wonder if you might talk a little bit about, there's a lot of people that listen to this, young advisors, people that are building their business. I'm sure people who are selling their businesses and successing to the next generation. There's also individuals who are looking for, how do I get better service from my wealth manager? How do I find the right wealth manager? So if you were going to just talk a little bit about how can those advisors that are looking to really drive where wealth is going better serve their clients? And yes, they are curious and want to learn, let's say, and they're eager to deliver the service. But what is it that you think they should be thinking about as it relates to the proof in the pudding and the execution that needs to come through their work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the first thing, part of your podcast, right? The name, knowing me, knowing you and your business. Like if you don't know your client, it's really, really hard to provide a great service to them. There's an amazing book that I would recommend for anybody to read called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's written by Will Guidara. It is hands down one of the best books I've ever read on leadership and organizations. It's absolutely incredible. And by the way, it's an amazing story. So it's a fun read. So it's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And
I'll put it in the notes here.
Yeah. So basically, very concisely, why I'm bringing it up, it's about the restaurant 11 Madison Park in New York, and to the lengths that they go for a $450 meal is absolutely astounding. And how they think about every client that comes in the door and what the preparation is before people set foot in there when they can get information on that. And then when people are seated, kind of keeping a listening ear for how can they serve better. And I think for the great advisors, what I've seen over and over again, the great advisors are on the hunt for ways to serve their clients better. Some of them have very rudimentary tools of gathering that information, and then they stop. Others, though, the best ones, they are always gathering that information on their clients and figuring out what are the needs of the clients. How do you understand the clients? Do the clients have special needs children or special needs grandchildren? Are there addiction issues in the family? I mean, you could run the gamut. You have this divergent problem that is a client, and the best advisors are always on the hunt to find ways to help serve those advisors those clients. And I think if an advisor does that and keeps that mindset, you start building that business one client at a time. And not surprisingly, referrals are higher for those advisors who are on the hunt. They're not just asset gatherers. They are truly looking for ways to help their clients more effectively. And that's contagious too. When you meet an advisor like that, who's always listening, always looking. And I equate it to having a great doctor. I love my current physician, but he sees 2,100 patients. He doesn't really know me that well. So when I see him, I give him a download of what's going on, how's it going? And he really cares in that moment. But I just know hey, he will never be able to preemptively stop something. I've got to take care of it for myself. And I think a lot of investors have that same issue with their advisor, that they walk in and they're the ones having to feed the information and hoping the advisor is taking note of that. That's what I would say. For a great advisor, be on the hunt for ways to serve your clients. Really, you're on the hunt to find problems that you can help your clients solve. So be on the hunt for problems.
So that's from the advisor's perspective. When you think about where good is, it's about knowing, listening, always hunting for problems, and clearly also very attuned to where I've kind of navigated my life to building software to help advisors do that. When you think about the client side and how wealth is being defined differently, do you see a change there? And how clients, what are they actually shopping for? And how does that help advisors understand, how do I meet this evolving need from clients as their definition of wealth is changing and it's moving from performance against a benchmark to this much broader concept?
I think what's really cool is the barrier of information is much lower now. So anybody with young children, you can see how quickly the kids can navigate through to grab any tidbit of information kind of in the world and any bit of research, right? So if you think of this training that's happening innately and you carry that forward. So you could say anybody walking in may already have a financial planning answer in their hand or the Social Security, optimization answer in their hand. But maybe something for clients is thinking, are you asking the right question? And for advisors, yeah, it's really nice to know all the quantitative things. You could be really smart with your clients, but are you healthy with your client? Do you have a healthy relationship with? Are you digging things out? Do clients have risk aversion issues? Or heck, we had clients early on that had fought in World War II, and they didn't want some of the international, indices that we were buying, and that they just couldn't wrap their heads around owning, German stocks when their parents or grandparents were murdered, right? And so understanding the behavioral finance part and understanding the qualitative and the quantitative is really important. And so the cool part is pretty much every technical answer could be answered, but I think for advisors and for individuals, are you asking the right questions and are you thinking through that? And that's an art, as you very well know, right? To be able to ask those questions and collect the right information, that is hard to do. And I think it's a little tricky on a chat GPT in that it's going to right now, it's going to cater to, it's going to attempt to ask you open-ended questions and attempt to get you to finding what right solution you want. But it's just so vast. It's kind of like when the internet was first coming out, right? Whoa, I could look up anything. That feeling is very empowering. But then after a while, you're like, oh, what should I look up now? It's okay, I'm tired of looking stuff up. I don't care. Now we all do it so readily. So I think it'll be the same way with any kind of advice. I don't mean just financial, but I mean psychological, medical, like it's really interesting. But I think in every piece of it, the diagnosis may not always be able to be followed. So some people may not be able to stay invested when markets go through turmoil. And that's where the advisor can really be helpful on that. It was a long-winded answer, but I think hopefully I got that across.
What if financial planning wasn't just about numbers, but about you, your values, your goals, your vision for the future? Nomi is transforming client discovery for wealth managers, going beyond assets and risk scores to uncover what truly matters. With behavioral insights and real-time data, Nomi helps advisors personalize advice, build deeper connections, and grow their businesses. Because the best financial decisions start with knowing you. Discover the future of client engagement at nomi.com. Yeah, I know one of the big words of the year that the New York Times said it was AI slop. And I think it's such a good word. That's right. It's like internet slop that is now being fed to you. Whether or not you even were looking for it, it's still going to be hitting you. So you're now in this stage of life where you are sitting on boards, you're investing in innovation. What types of innovation are you most excited about? What are the things that you see that are like, wow, this is something totally different and game changing, and why?
Yeah, one of them exciting one. Well, one, I mean, to give you a shameless plug or a not so shameless plug, like what you're doing is really cool. Like you're going to fundamentally help advisors think about the way they serve their clients differently. And more importantly, you're helping empower individual clients think about how they think. And that's actually really cool. Like that's very unique. One of the other ones is a company that we've been working with, Wing Financial, that is just really cool. Like the idea of taking AI and having a very specific research heavy, user friendly way that advisors can help their clients access pretty much any financial planning answer they need for any client, and understanding very specifically that client's problem set and then creating a solution. Again, that's pretty nascent technology. It's been around for about a year and a half, but there, as you can imagine, with any AI tool, it is expanding exponentially in terms of who they're serving and how they're serving it. And the algorithm just keeps getting smarter and smarter. And I think actually the most basic, like that. I mean, I think about portfolio management and research. I always kind of had an issue of like as advisors, they needed to send out performance reports. And I think there's a lot more to offer than just simply performance reports. So I think for advisors, sending out information regarding clients' money is critically important, but wrapping context around that. So I know there are tools out there that are doing that, and also narratives in there, and just kind of helping people understand what they actually own. And a lot of people still don't really quite understand what the word stock means, right? And then really invested in companies. And these companies are ones that you actually
that you own also. They don't understand that means you actually are an owner, a part owner of that. They don't get that.
Absolutely, Marla. That's exactly. So those are a few of the things. It is such an exciting time. In some ways, it's a little scary too. But I think the one thing that gives me the most hope is that a relationship is something that is very difficult to ever compete with. That if you truly have a great relationship with a person, most people have the capacity to have multiple great relationships. And I think that's really important. So if you're just transacting clients, or if you're I think everybody maybe listening has probably seen like asset gatherers. All they're doing is just kind of gathering assets. I think those days are going to be long gone. If you're just promising better performance, you're probably not going to get it, or it's unlikely or improbable that you get it on a consistent basis. So how do you help clients get the returns that they need to get to their retirement? And then how do you help the clients get all the other stuff that they need? So this ability to make this happen now is so much easier. And heck, with Chat GPT or, with Microsoft now, it's like you just, or Google, any of them that are using AI search tools, you can really help people very effectively. So I think that's actually, those are some of the things, but it's a cool time to be, I think, well, it's cool to witness it and to see where it's all going. And I just hope it keeps going down the right path. And I hope people stay away from products and stick more on the service side.
That's a great layup for my next question. First off, thank you for the positive plug about Nomi. It is very much in line with where we want to help the industry go, evolving from product centricity to really solution and client centricity. How do you pair that shift with something everyone seems to talk a lot about, but not enough such that advisors change behavior or actually go aggressively into trying new things? But they talk a lot about the intergenerational transfer of wealth. They talk a lot about this growing demand from clients and prospects. They talk a lot about, look at how many users are on Robinhood. Look how many users they experimented with Robo. Look at how many are in the prediction markets, for goodness sakes. And you look at kind of the appetites and the client experience for somebody, I wouldn't even give it a high bar. Let's call it 50 and down. I wouldn't say 30. I would say 50 and down. And how does that pair with without any offense to anyone listening, the latency and slow moving approach that many wealth managers take to updating the way that they're engaging and creating experiences for their clients to get a lot closer to what some of those other tools have actually found successful?
Right. I think it actually happens in every industry. And I think we've never had the rate of change that we are having now and that we are going to have. I think we're just getting started. So I had a biology teacher that gave this great quote. He said, hey, you have three choices in life. You can adapt, you can migrate, or you can die. And he's like, every living thing has these three things. It was pretty harsh, right? I like to think there are things in the middle, but the idea of adapt, migrate, or die. So I think for a lot of advisors, and I would even equate this to my general practitioner, my physician, he's got 2,100 clients. He's got a routine. He's got a neural pathway that's set every day. He can get up at a certain time, or he's got his routine. He can come in, going to meet with a certain amount of clients. He can go home, have dinner. He could be a concierge doctor, and he could provide incredible service for maybe 100 or 200 of those people that he's helping. Might be able to do it more effectively, might be able to do a deeper level of care. But why would he want to change? Is the pain high enough, or is the benefit high enough? And I think this is very similar with advisors that, hey, you're serving clients, and most advisors, to their credit, are doing a good job for their clients. They're providing, nicely diversified portfolios. They're providing the general stuff. But until they get the pain of somebody doing it at a much reduced price with more service, more ability, or a better relationship, they won't need to move. And so I think the idea of anytime a new tool is brought to an advisor or a new resource is brought to an advisor, it has to be better than where they are. That needs to be shown. And then the habits of getting there and the reinforcement of the positive part of what they're doing needs to happen. But I could see a lot of latency. If I'm a new advisor now, I have this incredible tool set. Maybe I have no clients, but I could do so much, and I'm going to provide this super high level of service to the next person I'm going to meet. And if I'm an existing advisor, I've been doing it for 30 years, I'm kind of looking at my watch saying hey, I'm going to be retiring in a few years. I really don't want to do another software upgrade or something. And I think at some point, those advisors, they'll sell, a new company will probably come in, or a new advisor will come in and add those services. And it's a fascinating thing, right? You're changing human nature and on the surface level aspect of it. So again, I think some will adapt, some will migrate, and some will just kind of die off or wither away. So
let's talk to the adapters and maybe the migrators. I'm not sure. But when you look ahead 5 to 10 years and you are painting this beautiful picture, I know you're an art fan, of what the future of advice looks like, what is it that you hope to see realized? You definitely already shared a little bit that you hope the questions are better. You hope there's a little bit more relevance. But what do you see in terms of, growing, maybe product allocations and saying I think more people should be in, prediction markets or whatever it may be. What do you hope to see if you were going to say, this was my vision, and we can come back and listen to this podcast 10 years from now and see if you were right?
I think one, the input from clients is really important. And again, I'll go back to the health analogy. In 10 years on the health side, I would like a quick blood sample and whatever tests, and have it provide so much information that can help me prevent myself from doing something bad or getting into issues or treating things that are already starting to occur. And I think if you take that same example and you bring it to the financial side, so how do you collect as much information as painlessly as you can from clients and gather that information and store it in a place and then proactively provide service to them as their accounts are changing, where they don't even have to think about the linking of the accounts, or they don't have to think about the security of the linking of the accounts, that all of that now is basically table stakes, that's just, hey, everything is safer and information is there to provide the advice, the services and tools, and it's done in minutes. So then the rest of it becomes more of a psychology thing, right? Of helping people stay invested in asset classes that actually work and that are kind of founded to work over long periods of time. And if people want to speculate on certain markets or certain coins or certain commodities or whatever, that they understand the difference between speculating and investing. And there's never been a better time to understand that now, but that doesn't stop the dopamine hit from those speculation and whatever the serotonin afterward if you get it right, but not all the bad stuff, the cortisol when you get it wrong. So
there's a lot of psychology right there, a lot of what's actually happening in the brain as you're doing these things.
Marla, if I had a magic wand, like I would wave these speculation markets into extinction, or I would wave them into just pure entertainment where every human being understood, hey, this is for entertainment. I know I'll get it. Like when I watch the Super Bowl, I really don't have a horse in the race on this one. So I like to do the Super Bowl.
And it's here. It's local. It's like, yeah, this is the year we should have a horse in the race, right?
Exactly. Right. But we'll do the Super Bowl squares, right? And so then we'll look, okay, at the end of the quarter, what's that going to be? That's the play side. But that's not doing speculative things like that on your core investment portfolio to try to get to retirement. That's not a great strategy. So I think the more tools that are out there to help people understand that difference between investing and speculating, like buy the companies that are creating the speculation tools, not the companies that are, not doing the speculation. And that usually works well, right? You rather buy the casino than try to be the gambler.
Absolutely. So I really appreciate that answer. I love the beginning part of it. Know more about your customers. Information should be gathered, more information, painless gathering of that information, more relevant information. And then what you shared, I actually spoke to an advisor last week. He's, it's taking days, weeks, months to get accounts open, accounts linked. Those processes have a tremendous amount of opportunity as we look toward the future. So I think all of those were so spot on to what people are hoping for. You've shared a lot of this already. But if you were going to reflect back, what is one instance in your life or a conversation you had that totally changed your personal relationship with money?
One of them I didn't bring up was with my grandfather. So my mom's dad, he sat on some boards, but he was a board member for the Roseville Telephone Company. And I think I was 10 years old, maybe 9. And I remember the first stock certificate that I had ever received. And I think it had like 5 shares. The shares were trading something like $12 a share. And it was this ethereal thing that was a stock became a company. And why they were raising money is to basically put up more telephone poles so they could have more people subscribe to have a telephone. It was mind blowing to me to see like, oh, that's how the system worked. And I can remember, my friends gave me a lot of crap for this, but like I would read their annual reports and their quarterly reports. And again, none of it was online. Like it would get mailed to your house. And it was always fun to see my grandfather's, photograph in that. But understanding that when you owned a share of that company, like you were truly an owner, you were on the same side as the CEO. And that changed the way that I thought about money. And again, on top of the other stuff that I spoke about, it's really amazing when you think about it.
What a great early exposure that kind of also sounds like it was a spark into investing and to this desire to kind of get involved in wealth management.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I think as you get older, right, like you start thinking about companies and that don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? It's why index funds have become so massive and it's great. And there are things that, might be a little bit better than indexing, but costs are incredibly low. And I don't know. I think there's never, ever, ever been a better time to be a successful investor as there is like right now. And I think it's only going to get better when advisors get to understand their clients more thoroughly than what they have known in the past. So I'm super excited to see what ends up happening.
Love it. Alex, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your incredible perspective on the future of wealth, your leadership, your modeling of helping individuals, listening to individuals, asking them the right questions, and also helping advisors build better businesses has already constructed a better industry, and an industry that evolves with purpose and with integrity to help people to be in the industry of service. We are financial services, after all. It's very powerful. It's very inspiring. If listeners are interested in learning more or connecting with you, where should they do that?
You're welcome to email me, alexpotts100@gmail.com. Yeah, I'm not out like soliciting anything. You LinkedIn is out there as well. Marla, I'll send you a link to that too. If anybody wants to get a hold of me that way, that's fine as well.
Amazing. For our listeners, what does your vision of the future of wealth look like, and how does it overlap with what Alex shared here? How are you aligning the way that you're serving clients in a way that reflects back on teaching, guiding, asking, hunting for information? If this conversation was helpful to you, please like it, rate it, share it with your friends, share it with your advisor. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Marla, thanks for having me, and keep doing the great work. I love it.
Thank you for joining us on the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Your support helps us bring more transformative conversations to you. Until next time, keep discovering, keep growing, and remember, you're in control of your own financial story. Follow us for more conversations on financial confidence, self-discovery, and the future of money.